Hi everyone, thanks for watching. I'm Louise from The Dusty Jacket. Today we're continuing our series on banned books. Before we begin, let's clear up a few things. Number one, what's the difference between a challenged book and a banned book? A challenged book has received a complaint whose sole purpose is having it removed from the library or school curriculum. A banned book has actually been removed, restricted, or withdrawn. Number two, what is the American Library Association's role in banning books? The ALA does not ban books. Their Office for Intellectual Freedom just compiles lists of books that have been challenged and in turn publishes these lists to inform the public about censorship efforts within their communities. Finally, number three, who decides what books to ban? With very few exceptions, what happens within public education is controlled on the state and local levels. So it's this body within your community and mine that has the power to decide what is and is not appropriate for students and, to a greater extent, the curriculum at their school. Now, without further delay, let's get started and open up and read some banned books. Part 2. Our first banned book is Olive's Ocean by Kevin Henkes, which I rated 3 out of 5 stars and has a recommended reading age of 10 and up. Published in 2001, Olive's Ocean ranked 59th on the ALA's list of the 100 most challenged books from 2000 to 2009 due to its sexually explicit content and offensive language. 12-year-old Martha Boyle and her family were leaving on their annual vacation to the Atlantic coast when a woman appeared on the Boyles' doorstep. She introduced herself as Olive's mother, one of Martha's classmates who had recently been killed. She handed Martha a folded piece of paper from Olive's journal. As Martha read the note, written by a girl she barely knew, she was struck by just a few simple sentences. I hope that I get to know Martha Boyle next year or this summer. I hope that we can be friends. That is my biggest hope. These kind words filled with expectation would alter Martha's worldview forever as she mourns a friendship that never was and never will be. Despite the ominous label associated with it, Olive's Ocean, which is also a Newbery Honor book, is a rather mild coming-of-age story about a girl dealing with the customary preteen fare, first love, awkwardness, rejection, humiliation, and the constant struggle of trying to figure out who she is and what she wants. Pretty safe stuff, but Henkes does nudge the boundaries ever so slightly, causing those few but all-important feathers to be ruffled. The sexually explicit reference is a brief explanation to Martha by her older brother of why their parents seem overly affectionate one morning. It seems they were exhibiting morning sex behavior, and when they do it in the morning, they get a little bit lovey-dovey. Regarding the offensive language, there are instances of mild profanity, but nothing too over the top for the publisher's recommended reading age of 10 and up. So, the big questions are either of these inclusions necessary to further the story or develop the characters? No. Could they have been excluded with little to no impact on the overall message? Absolutely. Would Henkes have omitted them if he knew the wrath that awaited him? Maybe, maybe not. There's no question that having your book banned instantly puts you on a reader's radar, but clearly this was not his intent. All in all, these infractions, as most references go, are tame, but clearly remain unforced errors and prompt me to up the recommended reading age by a few years just to be prudent. As far as stories go, this was a quick read and had several important messages about inclusivity and realizing that the world doesn't revolve around your own personal cares and needs. However, I would have liked more Olive in Olive's Ocean and feel that this was an opportunity wasted. The apparent connection between Olive and Martha stated in the synopsis doesn't quite materialize in the actual book, and it would have been far more interesting if Olive's story had been developed more deeply to show Martha's slow and eventual evolution. Still, the targeted audience will find a nice and relatable story, while I was hoping for something a little bit more moving with a deeper and lasting message. Banned book number 2 is Speak by Lori Halls Anderson, which I rated 5 out of 5 stars and has a recommended reading age of 12 and up. Published in 1999, this book was banned for its inclusion of rape and profanity, deemed biased against male students, and blasted for containing a political viewpoint. It's Melinda Sordino's first year at Meriwether High, a time of change and cliques, fitting in or being left out, and lots of ups and downs and possibly even a few sideways. But for Melinda, her year is already beginning with a dark cloud hanging over her. While other teens are covering up their acne, Melinda is covering up her shame of being raped, and it's not easy. Every fiber in her being wants to scream out and tell the world what happened to her. But why speak when nobody, not even your best friend, wants to listen? Speak was ranked 60th on the ALA's list of top 100 banned and challenged books for 2000 to 2009 and 25th for 2010 to 2019. Let's address the red flags directly. First, there is profanity, but it's mild, and the actual rape scene is sexually suggestive and not graphic. He smells like beer and mean, and he hurts me, hurts me, hurts me, and gets up and zips his jeans and smiles. Anderson lets her readers know that Melinda has been violated in the most horrific way possible, but she relays it as a scared and traumatized 13-year-old girl would, and it's incredibly effective. Second, as it is a male student who commits the rape, it's easy to say that this book is biased against males. However, Anderson portrays the females in this book as elitist and snarky bullies who immediately defend the attractive and popular jock, while viewing Melinda as an overreactive killjoy, so the girls are portrayed just as harshly, if not more so. Last, it was blasted for containing a political viewpoint, which boils down to a student stifling a class discussion because the teacher shut down a debate when he found himself on the losing side. So, when a political viewpoint is defending the First Amendment and your reaction to a free speech argument is banning a book, that's pretty ironic. This is a raw, painful, and ultimately inspiring book about a young girl desperately trying to piece her life and sanity back together after being gutlessly and maliciously ripped apart. Her innocence robbed one summer night on a wet, dark ground. Speak is told from Melinda's point of view, which adds another layer to this complex and haunting story that should not be banned, but instead handed out to every teenager on the planet. Anderson's message is far too important to ban to a dark corner, and I hope this book finds its way into many hands. I also hope that any Melinda out there finds someone like Melinda's art teacher, Mr. Freeman, who said, "You're a good kid. I think you have a lot to say. I'd like to hear it." Because then, maybe, that would open up the door for someone to speak. Our last banned book for this episode is the adult autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, by Maya Angelou, which I rated 5 out of 5 stars. Published in 1969, this book was banned from several high school curricula for containing violence, racism, sexuality, childhood rape, teen pregnancy, and inciting bitterness and hatred towards white people. Before she became Maya Angelou, she was Marguerite Johnson. When she was 3, Marguerite, along with her 4-year-old brother Bailey, was shipped from Long Beach, California to Stamps, Arkansas, bearing little more than an identification tag with instructions on her wrist. The pair was sent to live with her paternal grandmother and crippled uncle. It was here where young Marguerite would watch the poor blacks picking cotton in the fields, fall in love with Shakespeare, experience prejudice and hate from people far poorer and less educated than herself, and learn her multiplication tables. In the years following, she would be shuffled back and forth between her mother, father, and grandmother while surviving rape at the age of 8, celebrating her first library card, getting her first job, and experiencing motherhood. Angelou's autobiography details her life from age 3 to 17. Despite spending 2 years on the New York Times paperback bestseller list, being nominated for a National Book Award, and receiving the Literarian Award in 2013, it remains one of the most banned and/or challenged books in America. Banning Angelou's work, set in the 1930s and 40s and told from the lens of a young black girl because of its violence and racism, is akin to banning a book on war because it's too bloody. Yes, Angelou's book contains everything that it was banned for, but chastising these honest and true observations, experiences, and thoughts through removal doesn't make our schools or society any better for it. How can it? I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings is gritty, sobering, shocking, and compelling, while being uplifting, witty, honest, and hopeful. Angelou shares memories of her first Valentine, her 8th grade graduation, the stability a new stepfather brought to her family, multiple scholarships to the California Labor School, the summer when she and her father took an unforgettable trip into Mexico, the month she lived in a junkyard, and being the first Black to work on the San Francisco streetcar system. At every turn, Angelou seemed to live her mother's advice. Life is going to give you just what you put into it. And Angelou gave it her all. Angelou's title of her autobiography is a reference to Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem Sympathy, which is filled with empathy for a bird longing and crying out for freedom. After reading Angelou's early years, I felt that the caged bird sings because that's what it was born to do. Angelou is that bird, and despite the limitations and bars placed around her, she refused to be a prisoner or a victim. She never stopped at finding a way to make the impossible possible, and whenever she felt helpless or weakened, she rose above it all and sang, because that's what she was born to do. Through her books and poetry, generations will continue to enjoy Maya Angelou's song, as long as we, as a society, are brave enough to keep the cage door open for all to hear. Well, that's it. Have a favorite banned book or a comment about any of the books reviewed? We'd love to hear from you in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, please click on the like and subscribe buttons and make sure to hit the bell so that you're notified when we release Open Up and Read Some Banned Books Part 3. Again, thanks for watching, and I look forward to bringing back some old titles so that you can make new memories, because any time is a good time to dust off a new or banned favorite. Keep reading!